Hi everyone, this is Miss Afric here again, and today we're going to talk about factoring using synthetic division. Alright, synthetic division, that's what we've been talking about the last couple of videos. Factoring, if you want to just a quick reminder, factoring is when we had something like this trinomial, and then we had to factor it into two binomials. Alright, we'd say, alright, x and x, and it needs to multiply to 10, and add to 7, so like 5 and 2, so that's 5x, that's 2x, we need it to be positive, boom, and that would be factoring. Alright, so today we're going to be using synthetic division in order to factor. Okay, but before we do that, let's take a look at this question. Is 4 a factor of 96? So if you want to figure out if a number is a factor of 96, what do? Think about it for a second. See if you can figure it out on your own. Alright, let's see if we did it. Well, if I want to figure out if a number is a factor of a bigger number, I turn to my calculator. And what I like to do is I like to divide it. So 96 divided by 4. Now, how will I know if it is a factor or if it's not a factor? Well, the way we can figure it out is if you're going to get a whole number, that means it's a factor. If you get a number with a decimal, then it's not a factor. Look at that, a whole number. So that means 4 is a factor of 96. And when it says, how can you tell? Well, we can say something like when you do 96 divided by 4, you get a whole number. And that whole number was 24, in case you forgot. Even more importantly, though, is really what's missing when it's a factor. Alright, it's not that we got a whole number. It's actually that there is no remainder. There's no decimal there. That's what makes it significant. So the fact that there is no remainder tells you that it is a factor. And that's a key piece of information that we're going to be using today. So just like we can tell if a number is a factor of another number, we can tell if a polynomial is a factor of another polynomial by looking at the remainder. If the remainder is 0, then the polynomial is a factor, just like up above. If the polynomial is a factor, then that means we're going to be able to factor our answer too. So we're going to kind of keep going. We're going to end up with a bunch of factors next to each other. So let's try it. Example 1, it says determine algebraically if the first polynomial is a factor of the second polynomial. If yes, factor completely. If no, write not a factor. Alright, so we want to figure out if x plus 5 is a factor of this polynomial here. So, in order to do that, the very first step is going to be to do synthetic division. Just like we said, we can tell if it's a factor by what the remainder is. And in order to find the remainder, we need to do synthetic division. So, for synthetic division, we look at this expression here. Are we missing any terms? X to the third, x squared, x constant. Looks like we're good. So I'm going to bring down my coefficients. I have a 1, a 7, and a negative 15. Alright, set this equal to 0 and solve. So minus 5, x equals negative 5, so that's my number in the box. Draw my line and get started synthetically dividing. So bring the first number down. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. 7 plus negative 5 is 2. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. 7 plus negative 10 is negative 3. And negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. Negative 15 plus 15 is 0. So remember, this is our whole number answer, and this is our remainder. So, remember what the question was asking. It wants us to determine if it is a factor of the second polynomial. Well, since our remainder is 0, that means yes, it is a factor. Okay? So, the next part of this says, if yes, we need to factor it completely. So, since we got yes, the next step is going to be to factor. Alright, in order to factor this, what we're first going to do is we're going to take this original factor and we're going to bring that down as part of our answer. So I have an x plus 5, that's going to be part of my final answer. Alright, the rest of my answer is going to come from this whole number. Alright, this is the whole part of my answer. So I have an x to the third, That means this goes with an x squared, so it's 1x squared plus 2x minus 3. And actually, I don't even need this 1 here, just to make it easier. To get the rest of my answer, what I need to do is I need to factor that expression, that trinomial that I got from my synthetic division. So if you think back to when we were able to factor, remember I want my first term to come from this first term, so that means it has to be an x and an x. And then I want my last terms to come from my last term. So I need something that multiplies to 3. Well, that's only going to be either a 1 and 3 or a 3 and a 1. I'll just do 1 and 3. So if I want this to factor correctly, that means that the insides and the outsides need to give me my middle term here. So 1x and 3x. In order to get a positive 2x, I need a positive 3 and a negative 1. So I'm going to have a positive 3 and a negative 1. And this whole thing right here, that's going to be my final answer. Alright? So our first step is synthetic division, and then our second step, if we get yes, is going to be to factor it. Now in this problem it didn't happen, but if we were to get no, then just like it says in the directions, we would just write not a factor, and then we wouldn't even have to do anything. Alright, so make sure you pay close attention to whether it is a factor or not, and that, remember, comes from the remainder. Alright, let's try part B. So again, first step is synthetic division. I'm going to look if I'm missing any terms. Looks like it's good to me. So bring down my coefficients, 1, negative 10, 33, and negative 36. In order to figure out what I am dividing by, I'm going to set this equal to 0. Add 4, add 4. So that gives me x equals 4. So I'm going to put a 4 in a box. Draw the line and do synthetic division. Try this on your own. I'll do it up here and then we can kind of compare. So 1 times 4, that's 4. Negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. 33 plus negative 24 is 9. Remember, you can use your calculator whenever you need to. 9 times 4 is 36. And negative 36 plus 36 is 0. So remember that last number, that is our remainder. And since it is 0, that means yes, it is a factor. So that means we have to actually factor it. So once again, I'm going to take this x minus 4, the original factor, that's going to be part of my answer. X minus 4. And then to get the rest of the answer, I need to look at what I got from synthetic division. This was an x to the third. That means this first one should be an x squared, so it's 1x squared minus 6x plus 9. Okay, and then I need to factor that. So that needs to turn into two binomials down here. Okay, I know it's got to be x and x. I need to have a 9 in my lasts, so that could be 3, 3, 1 and 9, or 9 and 1. I'm going to try 3 and 3. Hopefully we're getting really good at factoring so that this is a little bit easier. You don't have to guess as much. Alright, I want it to add up to a negative 6x. So that means this is a 3x and this is a 3x. So they both have to be negative. So minus and minus. And there's my answer. Alright, one more and then I will let you guys get started. So, part C, x minus 8 and then x cubed plus 4x squared minus 6x minus 2. So first step is synthetic division. Are we missing any terms? Looks good. So bring down my coefficients. Alright, set it equal to 0 and that'll give you the number you're dividing by. X equals 8. So I'm going to put 8 in a box. Draw my line. Bring the first number down. 1 times 8 is 8. 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 times 8, we're getting kind of big, you might want to use your calculator. 12 times 8, that's going to be 96. Negative 6 plus 96 is 90. We're getting really big, definitely want to use your calculator. 90 times 8, I'll go ahead and use my calculator. 90 times 8, 720. Add it together. That's 718. So in this case, my remainder is 718. Now that is not 0. It's nowhere near 0, actually. So what that means is this is not a factor. So I don't have to do all that other work. All I have to say is, nope, not a factor, and then I am done. So you can see it's kind of nice when it's no, because it's a little less work. But because of that, you shouldn't expect to get no too often. So if you find you're getting no a lot, you should definitely double check your work. Alright, if you have any questions, make sure you ask your teacher. Otherwise, good luck on your in-class practice.